How to be irreplaceable, the lesson of the first Christmas. Today is Christmas, and you've probably already seen the classic nativity scene. Mary, Joseph, baby Jesus, and of course the three wise men. We look at this naturally, but there's a fascinating historical mystery hidden there that almost no one notices. Those men were not Jewish. They didn't know the Hebrew prophecies and came from a pagan culture of the East, probably from ancient Babylon or Persia. The question that should keep you awake at night is, how did pagan astronomers know with such precision that a Jewish king would be born at that specific time? How did they know that a specific star indicated the Messiah of a people who were not their own? No one wakes up in the morning, looks at the sky, and decides to travel for months through the desert without having a very clear map in hand. The truth is, they didn't guess. Someone taught them. Someone left a trail of historical breadcrumbs with precise calculations and detailed prophecies, some 500 years before Christmas happened. They were following the notes of a man who lived 5 centuries before them, but whose work was so excellent that it survived the test of time. This man was the most irreplaceable professional in ancient history. His name is Daniel, and the lesson he left behind isn't just about finding Jesus in the manger. It's about understanding how to stand out in a world full of copies and artificial intelligence in 2026. In this video, we'll discover how the excellence of one man in Babylon set the stage for Christmas, and how you can apply that same spirit of excellence to become a rare, valuable, and impossible-to-ignore person, whether in your office or your family. We usually remember Daniel only for the story of the lion's den as the prophet who prayed. But we forget that, before being a hero of faith, Daniel was a high-level executive in the most powerful empire on earth. He was taken as a slave to Babylon, but he didn't stay at the bottom of the pyramid for long. The Bible says in Daniel 5:11 that he was appointed chief of the magicians, enchanters, and astrologers. In other words, Daniel became the rector of the University of Babylon. He was the supreme leader of all the wise men and scientists of that empire. He had direct access to the king's ears and administered entire provinces with astonishing competence. It was in this leadership position, as chief of the magicians, that Daniel most likely taught about the one God and recorded the prophecies about the coming of the Messiah, such as the prophecy of the 70 weeks. He created a school of thought that spanned generations, keeping the truth alive in a completely hostile environment. Imagine the competence required for a foreigner, who arrived as a prisoner of war, to rise to the highest government office and remain there while kings fell and died around him. That's not luck. That's a level of professionalism that compels even enemies to pay homage. If Daniel had been just an average employee, his message would have died with him. But because he was irreplaceable in his role, his legacy lasted 500 years, guiding the Magi to Christmas. The gateway to his spiritual influence was his professional excellence. What made Daniel so special? The Bible gives the exact answer in Daniel 6:3. Daniel stood out above the others because an excellent spirit was in him. The text doesn't say he had more natural talent, nor that he had the best political connections. It says he had a different spirit. In today's world, being average is the norm. Most people just do what's asked, deliver the work on time, and complain about Mondays. The market is flooded with people, and now robots, who can do the basics well. Doing the basics makes you replaceable at any time. The spirit of excellence is the decision to do everything, from a simple email to a large project, with a quality that exceeds expectations. It's about putting a stamp of superiority on everything your hands touch. It's about being rare. And in economics, everything that is rare immediately becomes valuable and expensive. The word excellence comes from exceed. Daniel exceeded expectations. When asked to walk 1 mile, he walked 2. Not to please men, but because he knew that his work was a form of worship to God. He didn't work for the king's personal gain. He worked for the glory of the Lord. Do you want to be irreplaceable in 2026? Stop competing with the average. The average is a bottled-up, poorly paid place. Decide to have that spirit. When you become the person who solves what no one else can, the fear of unemployment or irrelevance disappears, because the world always makes room for excellence. The first practical pillar of Daniel's life was his ability to bring clarity. There was a time when King Nebuchadnezzar had a nightmare and woke up disturbed. He threatened to kill all the wise men if no one explained the dream. The atmosphere was one of absolute chaos, panic, and widespread confusion in the palace. While all the Babylonian experts were trembling with fear and without answers, Daniel remained calm. He asked for time, sought God, and brought the solution. He not only explained the dream, he gave direction to the king. He transformed a moment of crisis into an opportunity to demonstrate his worth. In today's market, chaos is constant. Technological changes, economic crises, companies going bankrupt. Most people panic, complain, or become paralyzed. The irreplaceable professional is the one who, in the midst of the storm, manages to keep a cool head and point the way forward. The world pays very high premiums to those who sell clarity. If you are the person who can look at a confusing problem in your company or family and say, "This is the way," you become essential. Confusion is cheap. Clarity is a luxury. Daniel became the king's trusted advisor not because he was a suck-up, but because he solved the problems that kept his boss awake at night. Want a promotion? Don't ask for a raise. Ask for a difficult problem to solve. The reward follows the solution. The second pillar that made Daniel a legend was his integrity. Early in his career, he was offered the king's food and wine. It was an honor, and refusing could be seen as a capital offense. All the other young men accepted in order to fit in and ensure their political survival. But Daniel resolved in his heart not to defile himself. He said no. He chose to be true to his principles, even if it cost him his life. He preferred to eat vegetables and drink water with a clear conscience rather than eat the king's delicacies and sell his identity. In 2026, you will be tempted to eat the king's food. You will be tempted to lie on a report, gossip about a colleague, laugh at dirty jokes, or compromise your values to climb the ladder faster. The world is full of yes men, people who say yes to everything out of fear. But the brutal truth is that those who sell themselves cheaply end up being worth little. Integrity is a competitive advantage. People trust those with backbone. Even those who disagree with your faith respect your firmness. Daniel earned the respect of the pagan leader precisely because he did not give in. Being irreplaceable requires having non-negotiable boundaries. If you're like everyone else, you're replaceable by anyone. Your ethical annoyance, your refusal to participate in the corruption, is exactly what makes you shine like gold in the mud. The third pillar is perhaps the most impressive: longevity. Daniel served Nebuchadnezzar. Then he served his son, Belshazzar. Then the empire fell. The Persians invaded, and he served Darius. And then Cyrus. Governments fell. The economy changed. The culture turned upside down. But Daniel remained. Usually when a new board takes over or a new government comes in, they fire the entire old team to bring in trusted people. But Daniel was so competent, so obviously superior in his performance, that the new kings looked at him and said, "We can't lose this man." The lesson here is about consistency. Many people have bursts of excellence. They work well for a week and then disappear. Daniel maintained a high standard for 70 years. He didn't depend on company policy. He depended on the quality of his own work. The irreplaceable professional survives layoffs, crises, and management changes. They are not loyal to a political system, but to excellence. When you are good enough, your reputation arrives in the room before you do. You stop looking for a job, and the job starts looking for you. Don't try to become famous quickly. Try to be consistent for a long time. Fame is smoke, but a reputation built on decades of consistency is reinforced concrete. It was this consistency that allowed his message to reach the ears of the Magi centuries later. But what was the secret? What did Daniel do when no one was watching? The Bible reveals the secret. He had the habit of opening the windows of his room and praying 3 times a day. The source of his public wisdom was private discipline. Many want Daniel's stage, but no one wants Daniel's prayer closet. He wasn't excellent, despite of his faith. He was excellent because of his faith. The vertical connection with God gave him the wisdom patience, and vision to deal with the horizontal problems of Babylon. You can't maintain a high level of performance with willpower alone. The battery runs out. You need an external power source. Daniel's spiritual routine wasn't a waste of time. It was his competitive advantage. It was there that he received his downloads of wisdom. If you want to be irreplaceable, you need to take care of your inner self. An anxious, empty mind, disconnected from God, cannot produce excellence for long. Your work improves when your soul is at peace. The lesson for your 2026 is, build a secret routine of strength. Before facing the lions of the market, bend your knees in the bedroom. The authority you wield outside is a reflection of the submission you experience inside. It would be naive to say that being excellent only brings applause. In fact, Daniel's excellence attracted deadly envy. The other governors couldn't bear to see that Jews shine brighter than them. They tried to find some fault, some corruption in his life, but the Bible says that they found no fault in him. Since they couldn't attack him professionally, they attacked his faith. They created the trap of the lion's den. Understand this: when you decide to be irreplaceable, you put a target on your back. Mediocrity hates excellence because excellence exposes the laziness of others. But the story doesn't end with Daniel's death. It ends with God shutting the lions' mouths. The ordeal was terrible, but it only served to confirm God's approval of him. The king, who liked Daniel, was forced to throw him into the lion's den, but the next morning he rushed to see if he was alive. Don't be afraid to stand out. Don't be afraid of envy or the pitfalls of the office. If your excellence comes from God and your integrity is genuine, the same God who gave you your talent will guarantee your protection. Lions may roar, but they cannot devour those who bear the seal of God. Ironically, the lion's den became Daniel's greatest stage. It was there that the king decreed that everyone should fear Daniel's God. Your problems at work may actually be the platform God has prepared to be glorified through your life. Now we return to Christmas. Daniel grew old and died in Babylon. He did not return to Jerusalem. It might seem that the story ended there, but his writings remained. The school of wise men he led continued to study his texts and his prophetic calculations. 100 years have passed. 200 years. 500 years. Empires changed. But there in the east, a group of Magi continued to gaze at the scrolls of that ancient Jewish leader. And one day, their calculations matched. The star appeared, and they said, "Master Daniel was right. The king is born." It was Daniel's excellence, his unwavering credibility, that caused pagan men to travel miles to worship a Jewish baby in a manger. He paved the way for Christmas without ever having seen Christmas. This is the true meaning of being irreplaceable. It's not just about being useful today. It's about living in a way that the impact of your work continues to resonate even when you're no longer here. Your work is a seed that can bear fruit in generations you won't even know. Daniel taught us that there is no division between spiritual life and professional life. Everything is a mission. The way he managed Babylon was the tool God used to bring the gospel to the Gentiles at the birth of Jesus. The world today is desperate for new Daniels. Companies are full of technical people, but devoid of wisdom. Society is full of influencers, but devoid of integrity. It has never been easier to stand out, because the bar for competition is so low. This Christmas, as you gaze at the 3 wise men in the manger, remember the man who sent them. Remember that the best gift you can give Jesus is not just a hymn in church, but a life lived with excellence on Monday morning. The challenge for your 2026 is this: don't accept being just another copy. Don't accept mediocrity. Seek the spirit of excellence. Be the person who brings clarity, who maintains integrity, and who serves with a quality that points to heaven. Be irreplaceable wherever God has placed you. Make your work so good that when people see your competence, they end up asking who your God is. If you want to develop this spirit of excellence and have a resilient mind for the coming year, subscribe to the channel. We are building a remnant of rare people. Merry Christmas, and may your life be a gift to the world.